So DSLR versus GoPro versus iPhone. This is a question that comes up quite a bit. People want to know what I use when and where and why I decide to use whatever I decided to use. And I can never really give a definitive answer because the truth is I usually just kind of use what I feel like using that day. But there are some things that kind of help me decide what I pack in my purse or my backpack. So recently my family and I went on a family trip to Dallas, Texas, and I took with me my DSLR camera. This is a Canon 70D. I can't really show it to you that well because I'm shooting on it right now. And this is what I use for my YouTube videos mostly, but I also use it to take still photos when I'm in the mood to kind of like use a real camera. I also took my iPhone 10 and I also took my GoPro Hero 5 Black. So one of my goals while we were gone was to shoot video footage on all three devices so I could really compare it and see what are the quality differences, if there are any. And I almost didn't even bring the DSLR with me because it's kind of bulky. So there are kind of two sides to this conversation. There's the what camera should I use or take with me? And then there's the how should I pack the camera and the gear and stuff that I'm gonna take with me. I think that's the bigger question when you're going out somewhere to do something fun or have an adventure. It's not so much about the camera, it's about packing the camera and the stuff that you need to take with the camera. Do you need a selfie stick? Do you need a tripod? Do you need mounts and accessories? So we weren't really going on like an epic family vacation or anything. We weren't going to Disney or anything like that. We were just going to Dallas to visit my brother and his family. So I tried to keep it pretty minimal as far as gear and mounts and stuff like that. For some stupid reason, I wish I could say that I forgot to bring my camera strap. I actually decided not to bring the camera strap for the DSLR. It's the biggest camera I own. The camera strap takes up like almost zero space. Why didn't I bring it? All of that doesn't really answer the question of what camera to use when. And I kind of feel like the answer to this question is it's part common sense, but you do kind of have to think through what your cameras do and what you're trying to accomplish with whatever it is that you're trying to shoot, wherever it is that you are going. So first of all, there's an obvious size difference, right? My iPhone 10 fits in my back pocket or in my purse. The GoPro fits in my purse. You might even be able to carry it in your pocket. And the DSLR needs either its own bag or it needs to be on a camera strap which you have attached to your body, and it is quite a bit heavier than a phone or a GoPro. So having that DSLR can get a little bit annoying, especially if you forget your camera strap. Of course, the GoPro is waterproof, so if you're headed somewhere where there's water or even rain, you might want to take the GoPro just based on that alone. So I think you do have to kind of think ahead. Where are you going? What are you going to be shooting? And decide, do you want to have the bulk of the DSLR? Do you need to have the waterproofness of the GoPro? Or can you just make do with your phone? So anyway, yeah, I think you have to kind of think about the actual physical bulk and weight of a camera and decide, do you want to carry this around? And do you want to figure out how to pack it in with your stuff? Do you need to have something that's waterproof? And kind of start there. And then you might want to consider the image quality of the devices that you're taking or thinking about taking, because maybe you're going to be shooting in a situation where you really want top-notch quality, and then other times maybe not so much. The next thing I usually think about is actual image quality. Am I shooting something that I want to have top-notch quality? You know, and we're talking stills and video here. So, you know, most iPhones like 6, 7, 8, the 10, they take pretty great photos and videos, but the DSLR obviously is going to take better looking videos and photos. The GoPro gonna look a little bit different depending on what your settings are and depending on your lighting situation. And if I want to get video footage, especially in any sort of like stage situation, like a kid's concert or a dance recital or something, I almost always just use my phone because the phone is so much better at that automatic exposure. So in those dark environments, I go with my phone. The GoPro is going to be probably garbage compared to what your phone can do. But while your phone and your GoPro fit in your pocket or your purse, and the DSLR is pretty heavy and bulky, you really can't substitute the image quality. If you have a really great DSLR, even a moderately great DSLR camera, the depth of field that you get from that is like totally amazing, even with a regular kit lens. It's just so different. It's so much better, you know? And of course, my DSLR doesn't shoot 4K. I don't have a super fancy one. I can only go up to 1080. I do 30 frames per second. I think I can bump it up to 60 if I bring my resolution down to 720, but I never do that. Oh, but that depth of field is just beautiful. The GoPro could never come close to that type of image that you get out of a DSLR. And on an iPhone, especially the newer ones, you can get some really great looking depth of field. If you're going for a cinematic look and you're trying to decide between GoPro, iPhone, use the iPhone. It's a little bit better at that. Of course, there is portrait mode, which is kind of, it's a little bit of a sort of a hacked version of depth of field. I mean, it's not that bad, but in my opinion, there really is no substitution for just a classic DSLR look, even if you don't have like a fancy lens or even a really fancy DSLR. Usually, it's just, it looks so nice. You know, another thing I really like about using the DSLR versus a GoPro or an iPhone is that I shoot in manual mode pretty much, I think, all the time, whether I'm shooting still photos or videos. So to be able to have those controls like literally right at your fingertips to change the ISO, to change the shutter speed and f-stop, stuff like that, it's right there. And I've used the camera long enough that I don't even really have to look at it in order to change those settings. My fingers just like know where to go. Versus on a GoPro, if you wanted to change the exposure and stuff like that, you have to look at the screen, you have to go through the menu options. Yes, they've made it a lot easier with the Hero 5 and Hero 6 than they had on the previous versions, but it's not fast. And that's one of the things I really love about the DSLR. But at the same time, it is nice to have the iPhone, which is on full automatic all the time, and you don't really have to think about much unless you want to focus on something different or change your exposure, which if you didn't know, you can actually tap your screen to focus on something. You just tap where you want to focus and it will change focus for you. And you can slide your finger up or down to adjust exposure. So there's a little iPhone trick for you. If you don't use an iPhone, then you're on your own. So I actually want to hop on the computer and compare like the image quality and things like that from the 3 different cameras, from the DSLR, my iPhone, and the GoPro Hero 5. So let's hop on my computer. Okay, so I have footage from all 3 cameras opened up here in Premiere Pro. You can kind of see them side by side here. So over on the left-hand side, this is my GoPro footage. In the middle is my iPhone 10 footage, and over on the right is my DSLR footage. We are outside. It's kind of a pretty overcast day. I would even just maybe call it a gray day. And for the GoPro footage, one thing to note is that I was shooting with ProTune on with the color set to flat. The white balance was auto, like shutter speed and all, everything was either auto or default. The only thing I changed was change the color to flat. And I've been doing that lately because I just want to get better and kind of learn how to color correct my GoPro footage and how to color grade the GoPro footage, because it's not really something, you know, that I'm an expert at. So I have my Lumetri color panel opened up over here. I'm not going to give you a lesson on color correction and color grading today, but I just want to let you know that's my GoPro footage over there. In fact, let me just show you. This is what it looked like before I made any edits to it. So you can see it's pretty gray. It's kind of dull. It's kind of, I don't know, kind of hazy or something. So I was able to cheat a little bit while I was correcting the colors by comparing it to the iPhone and the DSLR footage. So anyways, we'll get into that in another lesson. This is what everything looks like kind of stacked. Now, I wasn't shooting all 3 cameras at the same exact time. I actually took 3 different shots of kind of the same thing in order to compare everything here. So it's kind of hard to compare everything, but this gives you a little bit of an idea of kind of what's going on over here. So it's kind of hard to compare all this stuff because what I want to show you is how much difference there is in the depth of field, because this is kind of a big deal for videos and photos. You can see how with the GoPro, this tin and these things are in focus, and so are the silos and all this stuff over here. Everything is in focus. That's kind of like one of the signature features of an action camera is everything is in focus. Whereas with the DSLR, you are in a lot more control over what's in focus. And so it gives definitely a different kind of look here. And the reason why my exposure is kind of changing here on the right hand side is because I was probably messing with the ISO here as I was shooting. So you can see here how everything right here is in focus. Even the edge of this tin is just starting to get out of focus, and then everything behind is nice and blurry. So you have that really beautiful depth of field here that you just don't really have with the GoPro. And just to compare the iPhone with the DSLR, this is kind of what we're looking at here. Of course, the lenses are very different. So that's why one is like a little closer than the other. And on the iPhone side, on the left, things are a little more, I don't know, sharp. And definitely the exposure is a little less than it is over here where I was playing with my exposure here on the DSLR. So over here we have a more wide angle example. You're looking at the GoPro footage uncorrected at this point. And then this is what the iPhone footage looks like. That green is so much more vibrant. And then this is the DSLR footage, which looks, I don't know, this actually doesn't look that great compared to the iPhone footage. So there's just another example comparing all 3. You do have to take into account there are different lenses at play here. And of course, this one isn't color corrected. All right, now over here, again, the depth of field here on the GoPro is just like, absent. there is no depth of field in this shot here, and this one's not color graded or anything at this point. This here is the iPhone. Compared to that GoPro footage, this almost looks overly saturated, but it looks fine. It looks good. It doesn't look horrible, but it is a little bit a little much, I think. And then here's the DSLR. Again, that depth of field there is just looking so good. This looks like it's a little bit overexposed a little. So I'm actually going to, what if I brought this down? Ooh, just a little bit. This is a tough one. Right? So, I think that looks really great. This looks a little too crazy, too saturated. So if I bring it down, I don't know, just a touch, I can definitely see where it would be very tricky to actually create one cohesive video where I incorporate all of the different footage and want it to all kind of look the same. That would be tricky, if you ask me. So I want to actually bump up the saturation a little. Oops, not on that one. On this one, if I just bring the saturation up a little. Now over here on the GoPro side, we probably want to bring our exposure up a little bit, bring our highlights probably down a little. Shadows can come down a little. Whites, we want our whites to be not washed out, but still present. Blacks we're going to bring down a little bit. I don't know. I think that looks pretty good compared to what it looked like originally. And then our saturation, we can bump up a little bit. So looking at the green lawn over here, I want that to be green, but I don't want this to be orange. I don't want that dirt to be orange because it wasn't really orange. It was more like a brown, like a blonde brown color. So yeah, I think that looks pretty good there for the GoPro footage. So here it is. Here's the GoPro footage, color corrected, panning around a little bit. And then here is the iPhone footage. And then we have the DSLR footage with that really great depth of field. Now over here, I have some still images. These were taken as photographs. They're not screen grabs from a video or anything like that. So I'm going to make this GoPro one. I'm going to scale that a little bit. And then we have, this is from the iPhone. I'm going to scale this a little bit. Super saturated there. And then this one here is from the DSLR. So that one looks almost the same as the iPhone footage. So I want to make sure we're all scaled up here. So GoPro footage, let me scale that just a touch more so it's a little more lined up here. I can actually bring it down a little, bring it over a little. So we're kind of comparing apples to apples, kinda. So again, this is not color corrected. I feel like I have to say that just to like put a little disclaimer on everything. But we are inside here, and there's natural light, and then there's overhead lights and stuff. Right where this picture was taken was over to the left of where I'm standing, is the front door, like a big front door. So there is lots of natural light kind of hitting this area, which is good for the GoPro because, GoPros, they like the lights, right? So I'm going to bring our shadows down a little bit. I don't necessarily want this to be a lesson in color correcting. So we'll make this kind of quick here. Bring up our saturation. Not too much. We don't want those greens to get crazy looking. Yeah, so that's an indoor pic from the GoPro. GoPros just aren't made for indoor stuff. Now over here, this iPhone photo, almost everything looks like it's almost been sharpened or something, and I haven't done anything to it. It just looks, I don't know, it looks like somebody went a little too crazy with the sharpening or saturation or something. And then this one here is from the DSLR. Again, with the depth of field, in here, in this particular picture, you can see how like this stuff, this person here, this stuff, this is all in focus, almost just like it is with the GoPro. I mean, it's fuzzy because it's an indoor GoPro photo, but it's in focus. It's not out of focus. It's not blurry, right? But over here on the DSLR, you can see how the depth of field is coming into play here and really focusing on this spot here, which is what I was trying to focus on. Even these things that are nearby in this right here are blurry. So to me, this makes a much, much better photograph as far as still images are concerned. Now over here near this super saturated green lawn, it's super saturated in real life, not just on camera. So you're looking at GoPro footage. I already color corrected this one just like I did the other ones. Same kind of concept there. This is with the iPhone 10 and this one is with the DSLR. So let's take a look here. I haven't done any color editing or anything on the iPhone photo or on the DSLR. Personally, to me, again, DSLR wins out on this still photo. If you ask me, take a look over here at this magnolia sign on the DSLR and then compare it to the iPhone. Again, same as the last time. It almost looks like someone went like a little too crazy with sharpening or something. And then over here with this GoPro photo, this is just a little bit of color correcting. I think it looks okay. It doesn't look that bad, but typically I don't take still images with my GoPro. I usually use it just for video editing. Now, I did take some video footage indoors, but for some reason I forgot to take any footage with my iPhone indoors. So this is GoPro footage inside, looking pretty dull, pretty cloudy. It doesn't play back real smooth on my computer while I'm shooting a little screencast here, but that's what it looks like inside of the building. Natural light coming in over here, natural light coming in over here, and there is tons of overhead lighting, tons. So I mean, it was pretty bright in here. It definitely didn't have a dark kind of vibe. It was pretty bright in there. And then this is kind of what's happening here with the DSLR inside. So what am I doing? You can kind of see, of course, the colors are more vibrant right out of the box compared to that GoPro footage, which has not been color corrected. So if you recall, at the beginning of this video, I said I never really have a definitive answer to the question of DSLR versus GoPro versus iPhone versus this versus that versus the other thing, because I think it really comes down to your own personal preference. And I mean, it's kind of like, what camera do you feel like playing with today? I know a few GoPro users who take their GoPro with them everywhere and they use that almost exclusively. I would say that I rely a lot on my iPhone, and I mean, I have an iPhone 10, so I mean, it has a really great camera already by default without having to remember to like charge a GoPro battery and bring a camera strap with me. But I'll be honest with you, VidPro Mom confession time. There's been times we've gone places and I haven't shot any video or taken any photos. That's actually like the opposite of what VidPro Mom is all about. I want you to go out and do fun stuff and capture that stuff on video or just photos if that's what you're into. But you gotta capture that stuff in order to be able to relive that stuff and share those experiences with others and with yourself, you know, 5, 10, 50 years from now. I will say though that after looking at the footage, I know that the quality of the video that's going to come out of the DSLR is going to be better than what I'm going to get from the GoPro and the iPhone. So I think maybe a little personal hack for myself, I think I need to go shopping for a backpack that fits the DSLR, fits my laptop, fits the GoPro, and some GoPro gear, so that I kind of have no excuse to not bring all of that stuff with me. Because every time I take my DSLR someplace, even though I think, it's so bulky, it's so heavy, I don't want to carry it, I'm always so glad that I did, because it really is a joy to use, and then the image quality is so much better. So at the end of the day, you know what they say, the best camera is the one you have with you. I'm a big fan of just using what you have. So don't get too caught up on what's the best camera. Don't get too caught up on what should I bring with me? I need to pack my backpack. Just make sure that when you are out there doing the things that you're gonna do in your adventures and your experiences, just make sure you actually get the camera out and use it. Focus on using the camera and actually capturing those moments, instead of getting caught up on what's the best one and what gear do I need and all that stuff. But I am curious what your camera habits are, so let me know in the comments below, and make sure you're subscribed to this channel so you can hear from me again in the future, and hit that like button on your way out. Bye.